Hello, it's Rob and Mo coming at you like Cleopatra.
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
See, this is why I said you can stay being the host.
Right.
I would not do that.
I was practicing that in the taxi, so
Did
I'm glad
you?
it came off, yeah. Taxi drivers give me a few weird looks, but that's fine. It's fine. This is the Rob and Mo Show. This is episode 2. We are still in association with Saley, at least for now.
And Cleopatra.
And Cleopatra. Now, if you aren't aware, Saley is the new eSIM service from NordVPN. It's for all of you who go abroad and you want to avoid all those dodgy extra charges or maybe poor connections. You get a local eSIM. It allows you to connect to the internet and it kills all those roaming charges. Now, it's something that we have taken under our wing here at all of us have been using it wherever we've been gallivanting around the world. It's all been fantastic, and you can do that too. All you need to do is download the Saley app or to scan the QR code on screen. You get a tour discount of 15%.
How much?
15% when you put TAW in when you're in the checkout, and then there you go. Crack on, which is exactly what we're going to do. Now, funny story, Rob and I always have a little text chat about what the agenda is going to be the night before. And I sent Rob a really long, detailed agenda that I thought was fantastic. I thought it really covered everything.
I did too, don't get me wrong.
Everything that we were going to do. And then Rob's like, you're going to talk about Isak, right?
I think I wrote one word, didn't I? Isak.
Yes, Isak, question mark. And I was like, well, why would we want to talk about Isak? Well, apparently, there's been some more news. Now, I'm not going to use the B word because it gives me the ick.
Bollocks. No, bastard. What's the B word?
It begins with B and ends in Bomba.
Oh, okay, all right. Confusing me now.
Yeah.
Go on, yes.
Sorry, I forgot he's old.
No, I know it is. That's a stupid word. The kids
It is
use,
the stupid
Bomba.
word. Yes,
Yeah.
there you go.
I know.
Anyway.
Hasn't it got Jamaican origins, that word?
I bloody hope not.
Yeah, I think it has. But
Anyway. Anyway, there have been some developments. Apparently, David Ornstein has reported that Isak is adamant he never wants to play for Newcastle again. He is not reacting to the recent PR spin from some of the Newcastle journalists around how he's been badly advised, and he's behaved despicably, and he needs to, turn tail and come back into the fold and realise that this is the best thing for him right now, and etc., etc., etc. He has basically said, nah, none of that, I'm out of here.
as per David Ornstein's report this morning. Yeah, we have been talking about this all morning, but there's no doubt a narrative's been building as we're getting closer to the end of the window. What's it, 3 weeks left? Just under 3 weeks left. That if you think about it, Newcastle's incompetence in the transfer market, their failure to bring in replacements, could in a roundabout perverse way work to their advantage with Isak, in that if they get to the end of the window, they've got no replacements in, they therefore feel they have to force the player to stay. You can kick up all the stink he likes, but on September the 1st, when the window slams shut, he'll just climb down and play for Newcastle, because what else is he going to do with his weekends, you know? Well, that's been a building narrative that I think has suited Newcastle, and they've increasingly got firmer in their briefings to local journalists. Go, no, the player's not for sale. Always the caveat, unless we get two in and we get 150 million. But the players' camp, quite rightly, have realised that they can't just sit on their hands and let Newcastle have this gaining momentum, this leverage, and so have briefed via the very reputable David Ornstein of The Athletic that the player is not going to play for Newcastle again, that he will do precisely what people think he wouldn't dare do, which is totally down tools, cut his nose off to spite his face, frankly, and not play for Newcastle after the window closes. Other reports, can I mention briefly?
By all means.
Is it Mike Hardy, Mr. Hardy?
Martin Hardy.
Who?
Martin Hardy.
Martin Hardy, sorry Martin. Martin Hardy at the Times has reported that Isak put his house up for sale the day after he was banned from the club barbecue.
Must have been some good food at that barbecue.
Yeah, he was fuming that he got no barbecue action. So he's so irked was he put the house up for sale, and apparently he's moved out of his Pontyland home.
This is all very much like burn bridges, piss all over the ashes kind of situation. And
No bridges left.
I'm fascinated because we've seen so many times when players have wanted to leave, it's never quite got to this point. So this does feel like a rare step. There have been obviously echoes, some people said about Fernando Torres and other players who've kind of gone to extremes to get their way out. And all of them have eventually got their move. Some of them have had to wait a little bit longer than they want to, but the move has eventually happened to all of them, for all of them. I've seen quite a few Liverpool fans today as well who feel a little bit uneasy about some of these tactics, maybe thinking about how they would feel if they were in Newcastle's shoes, or maybe even projecting to the future. For example, say Isak signs a 5-year contract, Liverpool win one or both of the big two in 2 years, Salah leaves, Lewandowski leaves Barcelona, suddenly his agent gets a call, fancy coming here, and then the whole cycle starts again.
But that's football, that's the nature of it. I mean, there's the inevitability that those that you love will kick you in the teeth. I mean, Florian Wirtz, greatest guy I've ever seen play for my football club. Wonderful, moral, upstanding human being. I know nothing about his personality, neither do you or anybody out there. He could do the absolute dirty on us in a few years. I'm afraid that is what happens. Players talk to clubs that are behind the back of the club they are contracted to. And there'd be a moral issue to it if all players and clubs weren't doing it, as though this is a standalone situation.
Yeah, that's true.
Now, the context of this context is everything, right? And the trouble is we don't know all the context. Isak's camp are briefing, and it seems plausible, given the lengths he's going to, that he had understandings with senior club officials that if certain criteria were met, he would be allowed to leave. He feels strongly that a new contract was reneged on, and that he had given them notice that this would be his last season for Newcastle, that came to them before the end of the season and did this. Now, you can go, yep, but there's a contract. Yep, but there's a contract. But it's not quite that straightforward. Players sign very long contracts these days because it often suits clubs with their PSR considerations to dilute the fee over a number of years. So it's not that simple. Most cases, the mantra from 99.9% of managers is, I don't want an unhappy player to play for me. Well, let's flip it the other way. He's signalled he's unhappy for some time now, right? And yet they're going, nah, still want you to play for us. So where's the morality begin and end? Is it fair to keep an unhappy player, or is it fair for a player to go, I'll do whatever it fucking takes to get out? I don't know.
I don't think there's a hard and fast rule here.
No, I agree.
I think a lot of it depends. The interesting thing about what you were saying about the promises that have been reneged upon, Newcastle may well come back with the fact that, well, there was nothing in writing, and the people who promised it are no longer with the club.
They may well do.
So maybe
grey areas.
Yeah, very much grey areas.
Which means no one's a total baddie and no one's a total goodie.
Despite what the PR will tell you. And I think that's a really important thing to remember, right? Everybody in this situation, from Liverpool to Isak to Newcastle to Isak's agents, they are all interested in their own interests. There is no wider, we are doing this for the good of football in any of this. We're all bad or we're all good. It's the way I would look at it. So the fascinating thing for me, though, is the idea that Newcastle, there's been a bluff called here.
Yeah.
Newcastle assumed, as you said, that he would go back in if the move didn't happen. They might have even assumed that he would sign another deal with a release clause to kind of avoid this kind of saga happening again. He looks like he's saying, nah, I'm not going to do that. And the fascinating thing for me, though, is this is a World Cup year. And World Cup year is normally when players get really twitchy about not playing football. I looked into this. I did some research for you guys out there. The Sweden's World Cup group, they haven't actually started yet because there's some groups of 5 that have already started and some groups of 4 that haven't started. Theirs hasn't started. They're in a group with Kosovo, Slovenia, and Switzerland. Now, I'd back them to get out of that group.
Yeah.
Sweden have got, if you just look at the front 3 of Gyökeres, Isak, and Elanga, I'd back them to get out of that group.
Even short of Isak, yeah.
Yes. But would they be short of him? Would Sweden really not pick him, even if he hadn't played? Because I think that they would. And I think Isak thinks that they would. So I think that as much as normally you would suggest that...
Oh, so I didn't realise. So hang on. So how many games have they got before, let's say, the January window opens?
Oh, what?
Sweden. What, two times 3?
Yes.
So the 6 football matches he could participate. No one could stop him doing it, could it?
Not at all.
So all he'd need to do is keep himself fit.
Yes.
By playing for some Swedish part-timers in between time.
I'm sure hure his mates are real sausage out to get him some behind closed doors games.
Do you know what? if you're looking at wanting to play for a club like Liverpool at the business end of a season, possibly the latter stages of the Champions League if things pan out well, possibly competing for titles, but also give your all to that, and also want to be fresh for a World Cup, what would be better than not playing 25 games before Christmas? I've never thought about it like that. Ruthless.
It is ruthless, absolutely.
But you see, the other thing, we come back to the ruthless and who's being wronged and who's being right. This isn't, I've seen, well, you Liverpool fans, you were upset about Trent leaving. Well, our club didn't get compensated in any way for Trent leaving, and that rankled. Even so, at the end of the day, let's get it in perspective. We're allowed to moan about it, but who cares? We're over it now. No, but with Isak, whether Newcastle get 120 or 5 or 145 million out of Liverpool, it'll be one of those two numbers with add-ons or what have you. Whether they get that, they're getting a British record transfer fee, which will do their club enormous good for so many reasons. So there's no stitch-up situation possible for any party here.
But I was going to ask you about the fee, because it does feel like this is possibly the most complicated part of a very complex mix. Because Newcastle have gone so hard and heavy on this. We're not for sale, but 150. At least 150. At least 150.
Something near 100.
Something near 150.
Now the language.
But what that means now is if they don't get that, then it's automatically seen as a climb down. So, as you said, the first bid, the 110, which has been called derisory by some people, is still more money than anybody has ever paid for a footballer in the Premier League history. So if you've already set your stall out to say that is a too low derisory, if you then have the conversation internally where it's like, we have actually got to sell this guy, you've ground yourselves on the back foot from day one, because you have to find a way to compromise. So I compare it to Leverkusen, Florian Wirtz. Leverkusen was saying to everyone they wanted
150 million euros.
Which was about 135.
135.
Yeah. And they were in a situation where I suspect Florian Wirtz probably would have been happy to stay at Leverkusen if the deal couldn't be done. And Liverpool went in with this bid and then this bid, and they incrementally got to where they wanted to be. And everyone was happy. There was no animosity between selling club and player, selling club and buying club. We was all very happy. This doesn't really feel like that's going to happen.
Why? Because Newcastle is such an unwilling seller. There may be some gap between their bluster and the reality of this situation. I don't think they literally expect to get 150 million. They've changed their minds on that down the course of the last year. There were times where when they first had to talk to the press, I don't know who it was, maybe it's Paul Mitchell, their then director of football, a figure of 120 was mentioned if we go back a year, maybe not even that far. No, in fact, it wasn't that much when it was talked about when Chelsea were linked, when they had PSR issues. Coming into the new season, something like 120. I think post-Christmas, when asked, Newcastle suddenly started throwing this 150 million figure. But I even saw a quote from one senior Newcastle person towards the end of last season going, it would take something approaching 200 million. I mean, they can just keep picking numbers, and it gets silly. I think this is where add-ons can save face for people a lot of time. I was thinking, if I was Liverpool, I'd say, look, we're going to give you 118 guaranteed, and you can have 32 million in add-ons. So you can announce this deal, 150. 15 million of those add-ons you'll only get if he wins 2 Ballon d'Ors in 4 years.
I was going to say, and then it becomes about the achievement.
But it could be that. It could be, I'm not being that ludicrous, it could be that the last 10 million of the add-ons are pretty tough ones to achieve.
And I mean, I think the indication was that Liverpool were willing to pay a lot of the £110 million up front, which again would be the kind of thing that normally is favourable to the selling club. We'll have to wait and see. There's plenty of more time for more twists and turns on this story. So there we go. There's your Isak.
Phil.
Go have at it. Now let's get back to what we were going to talk about, which was Bournemouth. Because
those guys, I forgot about them.
You might have forgotten about them, but in 3 days, 3 days.
I'm not actually ready, I'm not mentally prepared for this. I'm going to ask the manager to leave me out.
Yeah, it's not in the game.
No, it's just not. I'm not ready. I need to align.
You say that now, but you'll wake up on Friday morning and you'll.
It's weird. I tell you what's thrown me is it's being on a Friday. Because in fact, last time we were playing on a Friday, I think we won the league.
Yes.
Was that the Norwich game? Yeah. So that's a nice omen if we're going to look for those things. Yeah, I'm just not used to that. I think because I've got my week planned, and then you draw a hard stop maybe at a certain point on a Friday afternoon and go, now, what happens to me over weekend? I think psychologically that's the issue. It does feel like it's coming very quickly on the back of this Community Shield, doesn't it, as well? It's not too soon, I don't think, but I'm nervous. I'm nervous as about it.
Well, this was going to be my next question: how confident are you about the result? Now, are you nervous just because of the performance on Sunday and some of the issues around it, or are you thinking just in terms of fitness? There's a short period of time, or is it maybe the idea of Bournemouth themselves and the potential threats they have?
It's a bit of all of that, all of the above. The Community Shield, we looked at a team that weren't entirely ready. There were things to be excited about, but the things that we'd go, another 2 weeks wouldn't go amiss here.
Yeah.
I can imagine if the Community Shield, we had another home game against Sevilla or someone like that, that might be the one to put on a display and okay, we now look a bit readier, let's start the real business. So I'm not sure. The transfer window is inescapable as an ongoing factor, because what was apparent at Wembley was we don't really have anything to change a game from the bench.
No.
And you've no idea how a first game goes. Look, the bookies can make us favourites for a home game against a team like a mid-ranker like Bournemouth. But it's the beginning of the season. Who knows if they're 10% fitter than us for whatever reason, it could be too much of a game. It could be a game that we think, Jesus Christ, we need fresh. Which we often do need fresh legs in the first 1 or 2 games of the season. So I am nervous about it. They are a potent team. They are a team that can spring a surprise on you and punch you in the face while you're still trying to bed into a game. So the selection will be interesting. It'll be interesting to see if he actually gives himself one of his first choices, if he holds them back to the bench. I've seen that speculated one. That'd be a risky thing to do, but it could happen.
It could happen, and I think you're right. It will be a risky thing to do. But in terms of the early time of the season point, it's an interesting comparison with last year with Ipswich, who were a newly promoted side, and it was very much an unknown quantity in terms of how they were doing in the Premier League. You could argue that first half they played against us was one of their better 45 minutes across the whole season. So, and then obviously the excitement, the joy of being at home, all that kind of stuff. Obviously Bournemouth are used to the Premier League and they're not going to be at home, so they might be mitigated some of that. But I do think that when you think about the ways that Crystal Palace caused Liverpool problems, the counter-attacking, the long direct balls over the top that occasionally they did. That is Bournemouth to a T. That is kind of their game plan. Like I said to him, our good friend Josh Williams the other day, I imagine Andoni Iraola was watching the Community Shield with his feet up, his phone out, just texting his coaches saying, see that? We'll have some of this.
Yeah. And the only thing I'd say is I think Slot's really quite hard to predict, because we played differently, I felt, in the way we set up against Palace than we had against Bilbao the previous week. It's quite noticeable how different the positioning of, say, Kirkers in particular was much more tucked in against Bilbao and much more attacking against Palace. And that's sort of where we were suffered with those long balls out. Against Bilbao, the manager noted that we didn't concede virtually a single chance from open play. There's only 2 set-piece things that we conceded from. Not quite the case against Palace. They were hitting us on the counter. I think their performance is underrated. I think they've got some people in the middle of the park like Eze, who've got such good feet that they were getting balls pinged into them. Once they were able to clear on the edge of their box, they would ping balls into their central midfielders, who were then able to get them out very quickly. And our attempt to suffocate them, we were almost trying to play like felt like an old school Guardiola side, who will put everybody forward and camp on the edge of your box. And if you dare break out, one of them will tug you down. And actually, unless we did that to Palace once or twice, what do they call it? The tactical foul. But it's a product of overcommitting as an offensive side. And I think he's going to have to have a think. Do we do that? I mean, it's at Anfield, so he might be tempted.
He might be tempted. I think it'd be interesting to see how he reflects on, again, what happened last season with Bournemouth, because you look in the record books, it says Liverpool 3, Bournemouth 0, and it was 3-0 at half-time, and everyone assumes, oh, well, that was an easy game. It wasn't. I remember it very well. Bournemouth had a goal disallowed for offside earlier before we even scored our first goal. It caused us quite a few problems. They were doing something where they were very much trying to hem us in with the press, and they let Konate have the ball. They were pressing Van Dijk, they were pressing Alexander Arnold, but they allowed Konate to have the ball and said, okay, you try and beat us. I mean, unfortunately for them, he did. He had one of his best games on the ball. I think he played one assist to Luis Diaz and played another ball that really started off the goal for Nunes. But Bournemouth will have known that they could cause Liverpool trouble. The interesting thing for me about them is you look at their side and Semenyo and most of their attackers, I think
They all stayed.
They all stayed. Dango Ouattara may well end up at Brentford, but as it stands, they all stayed. Pretty much the whole defence is gone.
Yeah.
That might be a bit of an issue.
Three of the four, is that right?
Yeah, I mean, you can include Kepa as well, because he was their main goalkeeper, even though it was...
Oh, right, it was 4 of the 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's not ideal.
No.
Right? Against that, I would say Bournemouth, at the peak of their form last season, where I thought they were playing as one of the best teams in Europe, at the point we actually had to go to their ground and pulled off a very, very difficult 2-0 win, they were playing with 9 injuries from their squad at that point.
Yeah.
Being reported. Now, how many of those 9 would have made that first team? I don't know, but a fair few would have made it, which demonstrates that they're a team like mid-ranking teams that sort of do well. They're more than the sum of their parts.
I think so.
Do you know what I mean? So it doesn't matter, in a sense, the personnel. It's the organisation, it's the team spirit, it's the magic of that manager, I think. That will define what Bournemouth we get.
No, I agree. And I do think that whoever they come in, and the boy Diakite, their boy from Lille, who I thought actually played really well. They came to Anfield in the Champions League. I think he's going to be a good player. He probably will end up going straight into the team. Still got Marcos Senesi, who can play as a centre-half. They've signed Truffert to replace Kirkes. So they've got the players there.
And they had Soler in January, didn't they?
Yeah.
They brought in. So yeah, they're not short of bodies.
But it will remain to be seen exactly how much of a tough test it will be. It's always going to be, I think, an element of it being tough because it's the first game. I don't think anyone can go there expecting, as it was against Norwich, an easy 4-1 victory.
First days are very strange as well. You can get freak results because of the fitness issues. Was it 2 years ago, I think, Villa got rolled 5-1 at St James's Park?
Yeah, they did.
Newcastle went on to have quite a poor season, and Villa went on to qualify for the Champions League. You can see these things. So you can see a thing where Bournemouth could be 3-0 up at half time with a scratching at it. I hope and don't think that'll happen, but you just don't know that, and that's where my nervousness comes in. If we were playing 6 weeks in, I'd go, I actually don't care how good they are. I expect us to be bedded in and firing by then. Be happy, but it's where it's coming in the season.
Okay, my last question then. Who are you playing in central midfield? Because this was something that we spoke about on the last show, and there's been 2 games since then. We obviously know that Gravenberch can't play.
Yeah.
We aren't still sure if McAllister's got 90 in him. I suspect he's probably got 65 in him. So I would allow you the idea of him being a starter who's playing alongside.
I'm inclined to think he might not start as well. Yeah, I think they might give him another couple of games before they... It's quietly been... He was playing with that injury, and his rehabilitation on it's not been short. So I don't think they'll take a chance. Also, Dominic Szoboszlai, although he had a very strange game at Wembley, has broadly pre-seasoned well.
He has.
So I think I think they trust him in a double pivot with Curtis Jones. I feel almost sure he'll do that. And that Florian Wirtz will play ahead of them. And the front 3 will be the only front 3 we have available of Gakpo, Ekitike and Salah. The only variation, I think, the only options beyond that the manager has, really, which is a slightly worrying thing to say, is to put Wirtz into that front 3, maybe as a false 9, hold back Ekitike from the bench, and gamble on McAllister alongside Szoboszlai and Jones. Jones is a 6 and 2 8s. I mean, which do you? I don't see any. Do you see any third permutation?
So I think that might come into it late in the game. So I think that will be the change because we saw that at Wembley, didn't we?
Bring Wirtz into the front.
Wirtz came in. Yeah,
and take it off.
Ekitike came off. Wirtz came into the false 9, and then,
well, he came into a double false 9. Didn't
yes, he did, alongside with Szoboszlai. But I mean, I think that's more likely to happen from the bench than from the start, particularly in the very first game.
I tend to agree.
The interesting thing for me about Szoboszlai being in the middle central midfield pair, I felt like he played a lot better against Bilbao on the right-hand side than he did against Palace on the left. And Mo Salah was less isolated when he was over there because their connection is already quite strong.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with you. So do you agree with my team, basically?
Yeah, although I do still think Mac will start.
Do you ahead of Jones then?
Yeah.
So Szoboszlai and Jones in the pivot, double pivot.
Mac and
Mac and Szoboszlai.
Yeah, that would be my anticipation. But I will ask on a slot about this particular thing on Thursday when I'm in the press conference. But we have one last thing that we normally like to do at this point in the show.
What grinds my gears?
Yes. Now, technically, it's what grinds my gears. I wanted to stress this doesn't always have to be a negative. It can just be something that we
Can't
want.
it always be a negative? Why not?
Well, I don't think it always has to be.
But positives are.
I just don't think it always has to be old geezers ranting.
Oh, okay.
Like sometimes it can be you want to highlight something.
Old geezers going yay.
Yeah. Sometimes you want to highlight something that's good. I mean, for now, this is going to be.
Give me an example of what we might talk about that'd be good. Not that we're not going to.
I'm just shouting about a community event or something like that, or something that we think is good about football that doesn't get talked about as often.
Okay.
There are options. There are probably less of them. I think it's fair to say.
Some are duller than others. Let's talk about the nasty things in life.
All right.
Well, okay. Shall I go?
Yes.
Is it my go? Because you did last. What did you do last week? Kits.
And I may
They're
even have made myself a hypocrite on that. Stay tuned. But we'll see.
At Wembley, I was reminded of a couple of things that pissed me off watching the game. And the one in particular is the inconsistency, or the apparent inconsistency of the application of the rule when a player gets injured. That when they get to come back on, how many times have you been at a game and you go, well, lad, I had to wait for 5 minutes until the ref flagged to come back on, whereas their lad, they're 2 down in the 2 down for 5 minutes, and they barely had to go off the pitch, or one of them did and the other one didn't. And also, it feels intrinsically, if a player has been fouled, that his club should suffer a disadvantage by being without him longer than it wants to be, because he was fouled, is bizarre.
It's to prevent people from faking it, though, isn't it? It's meant to be, if you are really injured, then you can bear that extra burn. Whereas it's a deterrent for people who would just flop. But to be honest, it hasn't really deterred people from doing it. Because what they're doing now is they're actually pretending to have head injuries, which is a different level.
Exactly. Or banging the ground like they've broken their leg. Honestly, do you remember the banging? Well, these are linked gear grinding things. But yeah, the faking of injuries, there used to be a thing. I remember my boy, he's banging the ground. They only ever do that when it's truly serious, or they're like half dead. Now, I did this. Frimpong did it in the first half. He was banging the ground for nothing. A slight tap on his ankle and got back up. So that's and refs for wanting to sort of manage head injuries in particular. Stop the game at the drop of a hat. But it's a really good tactic if you want to stop a counter attack.
It is.
Is writhe around holding your head.
The other thing I think as well is when players are introduced, it should be when the team that's getting the player back is in a defensive situation. Like the idea where you can throw someone back on the pitch and they suddenly become an extra man in a counter attack. That the team haven't accounted for. I think that's a little bit dodgy. Like I would prefer it. So in the same way how when there's a drop ball, the team always ends up kicking it back to the goalkeeper. So you can start from further back, so you've got more time to reset. I think the similar thing should play into that situation.
Yeah. So, I'm really annoyed about what I just said.
Look,
what a feature.
So we'll put it to you guys. You guys are, in fact, our audience. You are the people who help decide what works and what doesn't. I mean, I'm not going to ask any more of your opinions on our clothes, because frankly, that's not up to you. But
did you ask for opinions on what we're wearing?
No.
Don't be doing that.
No. We got them.
Oh, we got them.
But yeah, exactly.
My no comments rule working out there. It is I don't look at comments, so I don't even bother.
I do, and I will obviously look at your input in things that matter. So if you like it that we're always ranting at the end, let us know. If you prefer a few positive things sprinkled in there, let us know that too. Either way.
My next rant will be about how you shouldn't have to ask about ranting.
You see what we've done here.
Yeah.
Thank you once again for joining us on this little voyage. We'll be doing it all again next week.